Everybody inside themselves has a small voice. Sometimes the voice is small, sometimes it's loud. The voice sometimes comes up when you're in times of trouble and it will tell you not to do something. It will say, take this other path. It'll make you think about your decision. The other small voice that we experience is the small voice that is destructive, that tells us that we're not worthy, that tells us negative thoughts. There's a difference between the two, and all of us should try to learn the difference between the two and where they come from. The one voice builds us up, protects us, and the other voice seems to destroy us or have destructive tendencies. All of us also inside of ourselves carry a courtroom, and in this courtroom we are on trial, and we are defending ourselves against our past, defending ourselves against decisions that we've made that we feel guilty about. In this courtroom, our subconscious plays the prosecutor, and his job is to keep us from what is our divine gift, which is non-guilt, which is love. And so you can imagine in this courtroom you have a judge, jury, and you have this prosecutor, and you have yourself as defense. You don't have a lawyer because you're the only one that's responsible for what you've done. So, in this courtroom, what you have the power to do is to change the perception of everyone there, because you alone are in control of this courtroom, because it's in your mind. So what I recommend is for you to come into this courtroom and play some Perry Mason, some Judge Judy, or whatever you think of the best lawyer, the best judge that you've ever experienced. And you walk into this room and you say, hey, this is my first life. This is my first run through this thing. I didn't have a manual, so I want to see the evidence that I knew what I should be doing instead of what I was doing. That will confuse the prosecutor. Then I recommend that you turn around and you start looking around this courtroom and you realize that it's in your head. It's not real. That you can perceive yourself in whatever light you wish. This is difficult to do, especially if you have locks placed on yourself from a long time ago or present, when somebody tells you you're not worthy, or you think that everything's going bad or everything's going against you. This can be difficult. There's a process for taking back the courtroom. Before you go into this courtroom, I will recommend a process to get control of your subconscious. Your subconscious belongs to you. You don't belong to it. You are the boss. You're the captain of the vessel. You decide how you feel. You decide how you perceive things. So, in your mind, you have a blackboard. On this blackboard, I want you to think or try to see a little circle, a little like a bead, a little small circle. And it can be bright, shiny, dull, whatever color you like. You take this bead and you place it on a wireframe numeral 1. think of a numeral 1 that has shape like this. So that it has corners and it has definition and detail. With your eyes closed, with the numeral 1 and the bead on it in your mind, you begin to push the bead around the wireframe 1. This is easier than it sounds. Some people I've seen will try to zip around it real fast. That's not the idea. The idea is to go slow and with purpose. What you're doing is you are making your mind do what you want it to do. You continue this practice. You try to get around the wireframe 1. Every time your mind goes off track, go back. Don't think bad thoughts about yourself like you can't concentrate. Don't worry about that. Just continue the practice. Eventually, what happens is your mind thinks that's what you want it to think of. It thinks that that is its purpose. The reason that we worry is that's what we think about these things, bills or circumstances or relationships, and we think about these things and our mind spins out into thoughts that we really don't want to think about in those subjects, but we do anyway, and we lose control of our thoughts. When you place this wireframe 1 and a bead in your mind's eye, and you start pushing it around with purpose, your subconscious is tricked into believing that that is what you want it to do. If you continue, eventually you'll begin to see numeral 1s everywhere, and that's what you'll start to notice. If you've ever bought a new car, you get in the car and all of a sudden you start seeing that car everywhere because that's what you're thinking of. You don't want to think of worrying. You don't want to think of anxiety. You want to think of what you want to think of. You want to think of what you want. Don't waste your time in the courtroom. You can't win. If you're constantly barraged by the prosecutor, you can't win. So walk in there like the best defense attorney that you can ever imagine, and then picture the rest of them like Gumbies or little babies or potato heads or whatever, because it's your courtroom, it's your creation. So create what you want, create it the way you want it. Don't let your awareness go into places or courtrooms where you don't stand a chance. You don't belong in those places. This is your first time in this body, in this lifetime, that you can remember, unless you're some kind of clairvoyant. Most of us don't remember our past lives. So this is our first time, our first go-around. So don't beat yourself up when you make a mistake. We're not born with manuals. Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. Forgive everybody you know. Forgive everything, everything. Remember that we're all just doing this for the first time, and all of us deserve forgiveness. When we forgive, it's our chance to be godlike. When we hold grudges, we become human-like. We don't have any room for grudges. So this is just some words that hopefully help somebody somewhere. And peace be with you, and signing off.